And literally everybody, when Braden says, okay, passwords that you shouldn't use is like the word password, half of the room was like, what do you mean? You can't use password as a, it's like,
Oh,
yes.
now I
And
gotta go change my password.
these are business owners. I know, right? These are business owners. And he literally, he didn't know what to do with that. He was like, okay, they don't understand that you can't use the word password as your password.
Especially when they get excited and go, well, it's okay because I add numbers after it. It doesn't
Instant
help.
security.
It doesn't
Yeah.
help.
Well, he put together that little, I think he sent it over to you, the different passwords and
Yep.
how long it takes to hack different passwords.
Mm.
That's why he was doing that, because he knew we were going to be giving that talk. And he handed that out to people, and literally, I think everybody in the room stopped breathing. There were like 20 people sitting there, and they're just like, what? And I told him, I'm like, if you think your laptop is secure, hand it to Braden and let's see how long. And because we'd already talked to him, we already knew their pets, we already knew all this stuff. I said, hand it to him and see how long it takes him to get in. Absolutely
Exactly.
Nobody would give Braden their laptop.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I do this. So, sit back, enjoy this little briefing. It's very basic tips. It's the free stuff you can do, the simple steps. But when I'm going to try to hold this once a quarter. So feel free to tell your partners, your friends, small businesses, because the whole point is this is just a free little, please don't use password 123, just because, right? So for those who don't know me, my name is Mike Crandall. I'm the CEO of Digital Beachhead. I'm a 21-year Air Force veteran where I did cybersecurity for the Department of Defense. I helped them set up how they do DoD, defense in depth stuff for the entire DoD, developed the term DMZ, the demilitarized zone. And now I've been doing fractional CISO work for companies around the US, and we've just moved into Canada. Hello, Deb. We know Deb from Canada.
Hey, Mike.
So that's me in a nutshell. But what we're going to talk about is your hacking and ransomware and all the other scares we're seeing on the internet and in the news. They're out and about. Some common threats, little idea of what cyber risk management is, how to take a good cyber inventory, a good starting place, what cyber hygiene is and how to have good cyber hygiene. It isn't just washing your hands when we're dealing with cyber. That gets rid of a different kind of virus. Some good cyber tips. And those are a list of kind of some of the tips we're going to go through. And the big one is awareness and training. And if you hear a squawk, that's my bird Cashew. She likes to jump on the keyboard when I'm giving talks just to, cause grief. And most people have dogs or cats that run on a keyboard. I have a cockatiel. So if you look at the little graph, it kind of tells how long it takes for hacks to be discovered when you're in the system. And if you notice, seconds and minutes and even hours aren't that big. It's mostly into days, weeks, and months. So that means they're in your system for a long time before you even know they're there. So if you get ransomware, most times they've probably been on your system for a while before they actually execute the attack. So it's good to know that they're not there right away, right? You can discover them now, maybe lurking on your network. So some of the scares that we've seen in the past year, SolarWinds. We were joking earlier about passwords. This SolarWinds attack that affected over 18,000 customers, including the US government. Almost the biggest customer was the US government, and hundreds of thousands of computers. So if you think that like entire departments within the US, the Department of State, Department of Defense. So when they say a customer, to them, that's the Department of Defense, not how many workstations. So 18,000 customers times however many workstations. And they were hacked because their password was SolarWinds 1, 2, 3. So this company that is protecting our US government and countless corporations worldwide was hacked because someone used a password of SolarWinds 1, 2, 3. So it's out there. And feel free to speak up. I don't mind questions as we go, but we will have questions at the end as well. So if you want to wait, it doesn't matter. I'm interactive. The Colonial Pipeline, who's heard of that? Anyone raise hands? That week, it was in the news. They actually paid $4.4 million in ransom. And it shut down their pipeline, not because, and this is the sad thing, not because the hackers got into the operational pipeline network. They got into the billing, and the pipeline couldn't bill the customers. So they stopped the pipeline because they didn't want the fuel to go if they couldn't charge people for it. So they stopped entire pipeline by basically hitting your finance system. So it's like they hit your bank account, you couldn't charge your customers, so you said, I'm not giving out any more fuel. The government was able to, they found the Bitcoin, they found about half of the Bitcoin and were able to retrieve it. But that still leaves like 2.2 million. I don't know about your companies, but I know I can't afford 2.2 million. Can't afford $2.2. So we don't want to be given out to the ransomware. JBS Foods was another big one, but I don't know if as many people heard about it. But JBS Foods is a big meat producer in the US, and they actually paid one of the highest ransom to date so far of $11 million. They got none of that back. And it caused some panicked meat purchases when it hit the news. So I don't know if that drove the prices up and then maybe that helped them pay the $11 million, but they paid out $11 million. So when we think of that, we think, oh my God, you know, we see these big hacks on TV or on the news or in the paper. And you think only large people are being attacked, but that's not true. They're just the ones who make the publicity. There were 714 million ransomware attacks in 2021. 714 million ransomware attacks. So the three that we heard were the three big ones in the news for 2021. They had big money. Not all 714 million ransomware attacks charge that much, right? It's usually a lot less. That was 134% increase from, I put 2021, but from 2020. It's a big increase from 2020. So I reckon this to Ocean's 11. If we've seen the Ocean's 11 films where it's a big heist and there's lots of money involved and it takes a lot of planning and all this time, that's what hits the news. But how many convenience stores or 7-Elevens were robbed last night? Hundreds, maybe thousands. They don't make the news. You know, that's not the big splashy headlines that, you know, 12 7-Elevens were robbed in our town last night. But those people are making $100, $200 in a robbery. You add that times 714 million, you've made a lot of money. And that's what ransomwares are doing. I had clients that for as low as $50, you know, just their home computer. And then I just was on the phone with a university in Tennessee, and they locked down their entire university. And they didn't pay the ransom, but they paid almost double the ransom to get recovered. So it's out there, and it's better to have and not need it than to not have. A quote from Franz Kafka. So this is just a short little video.
So I invited a few of the world's best
to show you how easy it is.
And show me where my vulnerabilities are. And now I'm going to meet them in Las Vegas for DEF CON, the biggest hacker convention of the year. They're going to hack me using social engineering, which is essentially hacking without any code. They just use a phone and an internet connection.
You want to do a sample phishing call?
What's phishing?
Phishing is voice solicitation. And basically, what you do is you use the phone to extract information or data points that can be used in a later attack.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Who are you gonna call?
Maybe I'll call your cell phone provider and see if I can get them to give me your email address.
I bet they're good. I bet they have my back.
Who thinks they have his
Go
back?
for it.
I'm gonna spoof from your number, so it's gonna look like it's calling from you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm so sorry. Can you hear me okay? My baby, I'm sorry. my husband's like, we're about to apply for a loan and we just had a baby and he's like, get this done by today. So I'm so sorry. I can't call you back. I'm trying to log into our account for uses information and I can't remember what email address we used to log the account. The baby's crying and can you help me? Awesome.
In just 30
At
seconds,
gmail.com.
Jessica gets access to my personal email address.
Now, if I needed to add our older daughter on our account so she could call in and make changes, how would I need to go about doing that? You would have to send me a secure PIN through a text message? Yeah, well, the thing is, I don't think I'll be able to receive a text message if I'm on the phone. Oh, I'm not on there either? So I thought when we got married, he added me.
Jess uses my girlfriend's name and a fake social security number
5127.
to set up her own personal access to my account.
Wait, I'm sorry. So there's no password on my account right now. Can I set that up?
She even gets the support person to change my password.
Thank you so much for your help today.
So she just basically blocked me out of my own account.
I'll get her fed after this. All right. Thank you.
Holy shit. So they just gave you access to my entire cell phone account.
You're going to have to go on and change your password now because it's Jess. My name.
And all it took was a crying baby and a phone call.
So that's how easy it was.
Why I don't get mad at the people asking me tons of questions and making sure it's me.
Exactly. And setting up a good, strong password on your account, letting them know that, maybe I won't do anything over the phone. Trust me, I'll come into the store to make all my changes. Don't allow online transfers. The big thing they're doing now with that is they're actually trying to get your SIM cards changed. And they're saying, I need to change out my SIM card. And then they can do two-factor authentication as you. So definitely talk to your cell phone providers and make sure they're covering your behinds. So the biggest and most common threats that are facing you today isn't necessarily someone calling in and trying to break into your phone account, but it's malware. It's someone sending some malicious software to you, or you collecting malicious software off a download somewhere, which leads to the ransomware, where they put up the big screen of death and say, you have to pay me Bitcoin to unlock your computer. Along with the ransomware, they're now doing something, they're kind of changing ransomware, and it's they're trying to do something where they they're threatening you with, they've got your images, or they saw you doing something illicit online, or they're going to call your contacts and say you're a bad person. So they're doing threats along with the ransomware. So they're actually downloading your data and stuff now. And the number one way that they get there is through phishing. And phishing is where they send an email that looks legit, that causes people to click. Now, who thinks that everyone is impervious to phishing now because, we all lived through the prince from Nigeria who was going to give you $1 million, and we no longer know to click those. However, it works. They've gotten much more sophisticated. They're using websites that look very realistic. They use domains that are often close to the domains we're using. So our users are our weakest link because they will click, as in with this little meme. In one corner, we have all the technology we've bought to purchase and save ourselves from security. In the other corner, we have Dave. And Dave loves to click those links regardless of all that security you have in there. And if he clicks the link, you are infected. So what do? We have to have some sort of cyber risk management. And I say cyber risk management versus cybersecurity because I don't think we are ever secure. If the US government spends hundreds of millions of dollars on cybersecurity and gets hacked because SolarWinds has a password of SolarWinds123, how are we going to protect ourselves with a $500 firewall and our cousin Jim, who is our IT director? You know, it is more difficult. So it's not that we want to be secure, we want to manage our risk. I relate this to your home. Do you leave your front door open and your windows open? I hope not. So you take some risk or risk management steps by shutting the door, maybe locking it. If you're so inclined, you may have those Ring security cameras up. So you're taking a little bit more of your security to state. But if someone really wanted to break in, they ignore the camera, they bust down your window, they crawl into your house, and they're robbing you. You're not secure, you're just more secure than less secure. You did your risk management steps. So risk management is really understanding your threats, what your vulnerabilities are. Well, they can come in my door, they can come in my window. So with your networks, it's like I have email, my people surf the web. These are the vulnerabilities I have. How likely they are to hit you. Are you a big flashing target? Are you a little less target? Do you have a lot of presence online talking about yourself where people might see you? And with that, you do your risk assessment, you put all that together, and then you decide, what am I going to mitigate? I'm going to have a strong password. I'm going to put in a firewall. I'm only going to visit certain websites, from my work computer. And those other risks you have to accept. Well, to sell my business, I need a website. So people have to know I exist. I have to accept that risk that I'm putting it out there. And it's that balance of what you accept versus what you'll try to stop. And with limited resources, you need to focus on those low cost solutions. Having strong passwords costs you nothing. So have a strong password. Password 123 is not good. So that's something you can do for nothing, is make sure you have a strong password. Fix any high risk items. If you haven't updated your system with the latest patches and upgrades and updates, do it. Do it now, because that's where they get in. That's why we have patches and upgrades. And plan and fund for future upgrades and updates. So the example of the house, if you have the doors locked and the windows locked and you're like, I think I need a little bit more, then okay, I'll put in $5 a month until I can afford the camera out front. Plan and update for the future. So what are we protecting and why? Before anyone talks to you about helping your organization with cybersecurity, it's free for you to sit down and think, what am I protecting and why? So what data do you have? What systems do you have? And I start with within ourselves, because we think they're not going to hack me. Well, we just talked about phishing. That's hacking you. When someone sends that fake email and you give out your login and password to Chase Bank because it looked like you were actually clicking on Chase Bank, they just stole that information from within you. You are the data source. So that's all stuff you have to consider. You got to count how many computers you have, what laptops you have, hardware, routers, firewalls. And the big thing now is the Internet of Things. How many people have that Ring camera, a Nest, or that Amazon lady device that you say her name and she starts talking to you? And these are all things that people can use to hack into your networks. So they're the entry point. So you need to do a good cyber inventory to understand what's really going on and where you're at. So with that, we got to look towards our good cyber hygiene. You got to have a good, positive cybersecurity culture. If everyone's going around scared to talk about the latest, greatest hacks, or if they think they got a bad email, then you don't know as an organization that you're being targeted, say. So if you have an organizational culture where you can go around and say, oh my God, did you get that email? I told the IT department, or I told the IT person that I got this weird email from Chase. If you're all open and honest and talking about these things, that's the first step to helping protect yourself against it. Do security awareness training for all your employees and executives. I notice a lot of companies, they're very good on, hey, we're going to tell all our employees, do this, do this. And then you ask the executive levels, hey, did you get any training? They're like, what do you mean? We gave that to our employees. There's a slide out on the, share drive, and they didn't learn it themselves. Well, everyone needs to know cybersecurity because everyone's a target, not just, your employees. Everyone is a target. And include cybersecurity in your decision-making processes. We need the best widget to help us sell our stuff. Well, that's awesome and that's great. And we all want the best widget. But when you're thinking of the best widget, which one is the most secure? Often we tend as humans to lean to, what is the easiest to use? How quickly can I implement this? How much am I going to get back from this? And you kind of ignore the, well, if it's that simple to install, how easy is it to someone to guess and break into it, right? And you got to practice what you preach. So again, as a leader of an organization, make sure you're telling people, hey, I do this too. I got an email that was, strange and scary. Did you get it? You have that open culture, because it is, and it all starts with you. And this meme I love because in the 60s, I better not say that, otherwise they might wiretap my house. And then you go to today and you're like, hey, wiretap, I want a recipe for, our houses are mic'd 24/7 with either Google or the Amazon. Everybody is listening to us. It's funny how times change. So where to start? Within your company, how do you fix things within your organization? If you don't have policies, then your employees, the people who work in your organization, won't know what they should be doing. So every organization should start with a policy, a general cybersecurity policy, what sites are good to hit, what sites aren't allowed to hit, your acceptable use, what you expect out of passwords. If you can't, or you do not have the technology to enforce a 27-character password with upper and lower and all the crazy stuff, well, what do you want your employees to have for a password? Tell them. It has to be 12 characters. You have to have capitals and lowers. You got to have a number. You got to have a special character. You have to have a policy. Otherwise, they won't know what to do. Same thing with email. What do you do with email? What do you expect from email? Who should be sending them email? Are you, if you're not using your work email for personal use, they shouldn't get their Citibank email there. That would be a good clue that that might be a phishing attempt if they're not using their work email to check into Citibank. So Citibank should not be emailing them there, those kind of things. But you have to tell your employees. And with this meme, it goes to changing your passwords or changing your default passwords. When we get devices from home, they are meant for ease of use, right? They want someone who is IT illiterate to be able to plug in that Nest camera or Nest thermostat or your refrigerator that now can tell you need milk. You need to, protect against those things. Well, they typically come with login of admin and a password of admin or a password of password. It's by default to make it easy to install. Well, if you install it and go like, whew, thank God I know I need milk now, that's awesome. But also every intruder in the world knows, hey, you got this refrigerator. Guess what the admin default password is? It's login admin, password admin. So it's kind of like leaving in this meme, the key to your house under your mat when you have a see-through mat. It doesn't really do you any good. You might as well swap it out. If nothing else, put a non-see-through mat. I wouldn't do that either. I wouldn't keep my key under there, but as we were joking earlier, passwords. The easiest and most often used way into your systems is via a weak password. So use strong passwords, but I always say don't use them so strong that you can't remember them. That makes it difficult, yeah? So you need to use different passwords for every site. So now I'm saying, wow, you got to have a difficult password and you need a new one for every site. I can't remember that. I have the CRS disease as well. Can't remember stuff. So use a password manager like LastPass or Password Safe. There's lots of them out there. They encrypt your passwords in the cloud. So you can go out and, see one password to get into your group of passwords that are encrypted and safe, and you can have a new password for every site. Try to use your multi-factor authentication when possible. And most importantly, don't use sticky notes. Most people, the number one place to find is under the keyboard, a sticky note with their password to get into their system. So when we go out and do those kind of penetration tests, that's where we look. And we also look around them and see where it's on a whiteboard, or, oh, you're a Manchester United fan. Let me try some Manchester United passwords, or, Dallas fan. I'll try my Dallas passwords. So I do like this where it says I changed all my passwords to incorrect. So that way, whenever I forget and I type in a password, it says your password is incorrect. And I'm like, oh, thanks. I remember my password. It's incorrect. And another good site, Have I Been Pawned? If you haven't been there, you can type in your email address and it will tell you all the different places on the dark web where your email has been stolen, used in other hacks. So you might think, well, I've not been broken into, but if they broke into Equifax, if you remember the big Equifax hack, they probably have a username and password for you out on the internet somewhere. So you can type in any email address into Have I Been Pawned, and it will show you. Wi-Fi. Now that we're all working from home in the land of COVID, most people are using their home Wi-Fi. The problem with Wi-Fi is that anyone that can see that signal has access to your network. It's not the old days with the plug and they have to be in your network and plug it into the wall. They can be sitting in your driveway and have access to your network. Now, hopefully you're using a strong password to protect your Wi-Fi. But something else you can do is to not broadcast your SSID. That's the name of your Wi-Fi. If you do not put a name in, if you notice when you go onto a phone or other things, it'll say identify and you have to type in the name of the SSID. So you could do that. I have a public Wi-Fi that's out there, and I basically use that for the public Wi-Fi. I do that for, I call it NSA collection. So people think it's the NSA listening into their stuff, or I'll put the CSPD. So they think it's the police, Wi-Fi or something. Smart people know I'm just joking around and they're thinking of funny, but hopefully, bad people might disappear. So use your WPA encryption. When you're setting up your Wi-Fi, you have multiple choices for how you're encrypting. Definitely use the WPA. WPA2 is best. Shut off your Wi-Fi when not at use. So if you're going to bed at night, you could just power down your Wi-Fi device, or just shut off the Wi-Fi from your cable modem. Public private SSDs if needed. So if you have an organization and you want your customers, or you need someone to come in and use Wi-Fi, don't let them use the same Wi-Fi that you're using for your corporate or organizational needs. Set up a guest Wi-Fi for the guests, and then keep your Wi-Fi separate. And then if possible, and if you can on some organizations, you can restrict access to the Wi-Fi via the MAC address, each individual computer, so you know exactly who is connecting to your Wi-Fi. Okay, and backup and recovery. This is super important. So when we go through and we said we've got these small little tips, change your passwords, protect your Wi-Fi, have your policies in place. At the end of the day, people are still going to get in, right? We're not the DoD. We don't have hundreds of millions to spend. So how do you get back to operating? The number one protection from ransomware is to be able to plug your computer in and be up and running within an hour. The only way you can do that is to have good backups. And a backup plan, I use the power of 3. I have a connected backup. That's me on my system or with a USB drive that's on all the time. It backs up constantly. So it's like a up to the minute data backup of everything I have on my system. The problem with that is if I'm ransomware, more than likely they're going to attack that hard drive and encrypt it as well. So I have a cloud backup. The problem with some cloud backups, if you have iCloud, Dropbox, or anything that has a connector to your cloud on your computer, likely they'll be able to encrypt your cloud as well. So then I have my disconnected backup. I don't do that as frequently, but at least once a week, once every other day, depending how much data I have changing. I plug in a USB, back up to the USB, put the USB in a safe. If the hackers are able to get into my safe and encrypt my hard drive, I'm in more problem than just the ransomware that I got. I'm in more serious trouble. So that's my power of 3. So if I lose a file, I know I can have an immediate backup. It's on my hard drive. If my hard drive gets corrupted, I know I have my cloud backups that I can go to and back up everything. And then lastly, if everything else goes to hell and the ransomware has backed up everything I'm connected to, I got to open the safe, and I know I've got a at least 2-day-old or 3-day-old backup that I can go to, and I lose minimal data. And that's the important thing. Losing minimal data. Encryption. This is another protection, not necessarily from being ransomware, but from losing your data. So one of the biggest expenses for an attack on an organization beyond the recovery from ransomware is if they steal your customers or clients' data. Most states have privacy laws. And an important thing to remember is the privacy laws relate to where your customers are, not where you are. So I'm located in Colorado, but if I have a client in California, I have to follow California's privacy law on their data. So you have to remember where your clients are and what are the privacy laws of that state. The US hasn't had a federal privacy law for commercial companies, and it goes state by state. So it makes it really difficult for us as organization and business owners to know at what level do we need to protect and what actions do we need to take. But if your data is encrypted, they have stolen none of your data. They've installed an encrypted file or files, and you do not have to take a lot of the actions. Colorado's privacy law says if your data is encrypted, it's as if nothing was stolen. So encryption is basically the jumbling up or making it unreadable of the data that exists on your devices. So for full disk encryption, we have like BitLocker, File Vault, Veracrypt, Discryptor. There's lots of different ones out there that basically encrypts your whole computer, the whole drive. And when you log in, it's unencrypted so that you can do and operate on it. But then when you shut it down, it'll encrypt the data before it shuts down. Or if you don't want to go through the full disk encryption, there is file encryption devices out there and software, Enigma, Encrypto, the others, they'll encrypt file by file or folder by folder. That'll help protect you. If the data is encrypted, again, they have nothing to steal. It's just a file that doesn't tell them anything. So we highly recommend that you do some sort of encryption on important files, files that contain customer data, personnel data, your employee data, all of that. One reason you want to have your files encrypted, laptops are easy to steal, right? It used to be when computers were huge, you know, that it was hard to walk out with a big box under your arm. But now you can go to the bathroom, a coffee shop with your laptop on the desk and it's gone, right? It takes a second and they can walk away with all your data. One of the big hacks for the Veterans Administration was a user that had a laptop with all our veteran data on it, and it got stolen out of his car. So it needs to be encrypted. With this meme, you can see that only one person patched his physical security. They had a nice walkway up and he was the only one to make it smooth by his door so no one can climb into his house. But you have to secure more than just your data on the wire. You have to be cautious of people stealing your stuff. Phones, very easily stolen. And if you get a phone, I can get into your two-factor. I can get access to different things. I joke with my students when I teach, you know, if you have the thumb security, then I only have to cut off your thumb. But if you're using the whole face recognition, I might have to cut off your head if I want to steal your data and use it later. So, be careful what you use, but it's easily stolen. But encryption, again, encryption helps with that physical loss. And if you do have a larger organization, the ability to remotely wipe something, like Apple will do that. If you lost your Apple device, they can wipe your phone remotely. It's good to think about what kind of utilities you have there so that you can actually wipe those devices. And another big one that sometimes people miss, why do we think we constantly get updates to our phones and computers? The reason is someone found a way in. They found a hole, a vulnerability, a hack. So Microsoft, Apple, Android, they send out a patch and you get the little alert on your phone or on your computer and you can update. Well, if you ignore those, that vulnerability exists on your phone, and that's what the hackers are scanning for constantly on the internet, is for those known vulnerabilities that people have failed to update. So try to auto update wherever possible. So that way your phones are always in compliance. If you are working in a system that if you update, it could cause issues with your current software. Because sometimes when we get our updates, we know that it ruins some programs we have because they haven't updated the program to match the update of the operating system. Know that's a vulnerability and update as soon as possible. Malware and antivirus updates, make sure you have them auto updating because they're the ones that come in and will check to see what is what known hacks and malware is out there. So you got to keep those updated as well. Otherwise, you're not keeping current with what antiviruses are out there. But across the board, make sure you're up to date. We're only as secure as our last patch. So I always tell people to make sure you're on the latest and current patch. And now the last and the most important thing, is training. Training. We touched on it earlier, but employees and email are like your leading cause of data breaches. Getting that spam email, getting that phishing email, employees going to websites that maybe they're not supposed to. And it doesn't necessarily need to be bad websites. You go to an eBay site or you're going to some sort of shopping site online while you're at work, and maybe there's bad software and someone has already broken into that website. They call that kind of like a drive-by hack, where you go to a website, it's innocuous in what you're trying to do. You don't think you're doing anything wrong. I'm looking up the next swimwear line for me because, I'm always worried about my physique, not really, for the next swimwear season. And I'm looking at this website and boom, that website's been attacked and has been corrupted. And now I'm downloading the bad stuff from this website, and I don't think I'm doing anything wrong. I'm just shopping. So letting your employees know it's important what they do at work. It's not just like, hey, I was on a break, so I looked up, trips to Geneva. That website was hacked. So take the time, educate the employees. I do try to say, try not to do death by PowerPoint once a year, because we've all been through those. And do we really, really listen? When we know it's coming and there's 40 of us in a room and they're like, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, yep. Can I get to my lunch break yet? So there's lots of services we provided, other people provided as well, but they provide like full year-long training where they get little videos and slideshows, via email saying, click here, take this training. We also provide phishing tests to our clients. So it goes out and they get those fake phishing emails. And if their employee clicks on it, then it sends them immediately to training. So instead of being hacked, they get the, you should know better. We know you've took the training slides. So, and if you're doing that throughout the year, your employees tend to be a little bit more alert and waiting because they don't want to be the one that gets caught and the boss hears that I saw you click that email last week, So those kind of help. And then when in doubt, throw it out. That's my, the DEL key is my best friend when I'm dealing with emails. I'm like, that doesn't look like it's anything to do with me. Lately, I don't know if you've all experienced it, but I've been getting probably about 5 emails a week saying that my McAfee or Norton has expired and my system is breached and I need to click here to update my McAfee. I don't use it. I don't use McAfee or Norton. So I know that's a phishing email. But if you do use those, you might fall for it. You might like, oh my God, I need to make sure this is updated. Well, my advice is never click the email, go to the source, open up the web browser, go to the McAfee, see what's going on. Same thing if someone says you need to change a password at Chase. Okay, thank you, email, for telling me that. I know I have a Chase account. Well, I'm gonna go to my browser, go to my account on Chase, and if it tells me to change the password, awesome. If it doesn't, that was probably a spam. So when in doubt, throw it out and always think before you act. Another big hack in organizations is you get an email, it's from the boss. If you're not the boss in the organization, you get an email from the boss and it says, I need you to act right now. You need to do this. A lot of people fall victim to that. They're fake emails. And we had a person in town here, a company in town that lost $11,000 to gift cards in Christmas season because the CEO's secretary received that kind of email saying, we had a great year, go out, buy these gift cards. We're going to give them out at the Christmas party. So they went out, spent $11K in gift cards, scratched off the stuff, which, some of us would think, don't do that, never do that. Took pictures, emailed them back to the CEO. And it turns out the CEO was like, you did what? So instead of rolling into the office or getting up and walking into the office and saying like, hey, sir, ma'am, why do you want me to buy $11,000 worth of gift cards and scratch off the thing? I just want to confirm that's you. They went and did it because they knew it was for a Christmas party and was supposed to be quiet. So you have to be careful. Know your source. So I see cyber risks everywhere. That's kind of my job. I'm always paranoid about the cyber risks. But keep an open mind, talk to people, provide regular training. Yeah, this is Cashew, by the way. She decided to fly in. We're getting towards the end and she's like, okay, is it my time yet? Make sure you have policies because policies are what shape your action. If you tell your employees, like, I want you to have a strong password, do they really know what that means? If you have a policy that says, hey, it needs to be 12 characters, it needs to have upper and lower, it needs to have a exclamation point or any special character, you've set those expectations and now they know how to follow them. And 5 simple steps for emails are to assume all attachments are bad. They're always bad. Just assume it and then prove it otherwise. Stay alert for those phishing emails. Update your systems and software patches. Rely on all your devices. Make sure everything's updated. Public Wi-Fi. Always use a virtual private network when you're out on a public Wi-Fi. If you're out at the coffee shop doing work with your work computer, know that you've just joined that network. So everyone else in the coffee shop is now a part of your organization. So if you use a virtual private network, simple software you can put on your laptop or device, they will no longer be on your network. You're private. You've now stepped away from that network. And use complex and lengthy passwords. Again, don't make them so lengthy you can't remember them, because when we stop in remembering things, we write them down. That's why I say use a password management tool to help you with your long passwords. And cyber risk management isn't just something good to do. Know that it is probably the law. If you have any clients that fall within any territory or state that has a privacy law, then you have to follow that privacy law. You have to protect that data according to the law. So it's no longer just that would be nice. You really need to do it legally. So with that, these are some of the resources we've used. Feel free to reach out to me. I can be happy to give them to you. Questions? Is anyone more or less scared of the internet? Anyone want a cockatiel? You know, it's a brave new world out there. This is my details. Digital Beachhead is my company. Feel free to reach out if you have more questions. I also teach at UNLV. And hey, Deb, you have questions. You're scared.
So great presentation, Mike. Like, wow, talk about basic 101. And I didn't know 3/4 of basic 101. So a great investment in time. But just a quick point about legislation. I'm calling from Canada, specifically Ontario, Canada. Yay. Just want to let you know that we do have something nationally called PIPEDA, PEPEDA. It was brought in by the federal government in November, I think of about 2018. So it's been around 3 years and a bit, and it's currently being upgraded. But there is legislation in place for any company who does business with Canadians, whether it's businesses or consumers.
Yep.
If our data is breached and we're not informed, there are penalties in place, and those penalties can be upwards of about $100,000 per breach, per file. And those penalties are now being reassessed, just so you know, because we all know the story of Europe and the General Data and Protection Regulation, the GDPR, and they can be, upwards of percentages of your bottom line. So certainly Canada is taking this pretty seriously now, because we have breaches constantly. And, Mike, we heard on the news about SolarWinds. We heard on the news about Colonial Pipeline. We heard on the news about JBS. But you know what? We've had a bunch happening here too. We've had labs. We've had the CRA, the Canada Revenue Agency, similar to your IRS. We had almost the entire province of Newfoundland who had healthcare patients and employees having their data breached. So really serious stuff. And, thanks for taking time out of your day to help us. It's really,
I thought for a minute there, you're going to say, we all thought, thank God we're not Americans. But the key there, and I'm glad you point that out, but the key that I think people forget is it isn't where you're located. You do have to follow the law where you're located, but with privacy laws, it is where your consumers and clients and customers. So if I, to Deb's point, had a client say, hey, I'm calling you from Ontario, Canada. I want to be your client, and I've taken their information. I now am legally obligated to protect their data according to Canadian law. So that's kind of where we as organizations kind of get lost, because we think, well, I'm in Colorado, I'm following Colorado law, I'm perfectly fine. But if I have a person calling from France or California or Ontario, you have to follow those individual laws, because that's the people you're protecting. So that's something to consider. I had a question in chat. If one finds their information on that pawn site, what do they do? The best thing to do is it should tell you what was compromised, i.e. that email, and if a password was used, is to make sure that password and email are not used anymore together. Because the first thing that a hacker will do is if they, I was a part of, sadly, I've been a part of many hacks with my information, as we all have, but I was breached through that Hilton or the Marriott SPG. When they merged, there was a big hack, and I was a Marriott member. So if you go out on the dark web and you were a Marriott member, it could show, hey, we saw your password and your email you used as a Marriott member. Well, one, change that right away. So, because they already know it. But if you've used that email and that password in combination anywhere else, the hackers will go out and try to get access that way. Again, why we want to have a different password for every site. It's because if they break into one, they're just going to start using it everywhere. They're going to be Mike here, Mike there, Another question is, can you talk about protecting more social media accounts that seem to be more pervasive types of scams, in particular LinkedIn and Facebook? Those usually boil down to passwords, having a weak password and or how many parents or friends send you that nice little GIF in your messenger that's like, click here and you're going to get this funny video. Well, you click there and they've broken into your account. So they are doing a lot of this phishing type connections via instant messenger and the Facebook messenger and those kind of things. And my mom over Christmas, we all got a message from my mom, and it was a little opening card that said, you know, hey, Merry Christmas. And it was funny and cute. And when we said, Mom, why are you sending this? We don't know where it came from. She goes, I know where it came from. It came from my friend Betty. Well, great, Mom. Your friend Betty was hacked, and now you're hacked, and now you're trying to get us all hacked. So, and that's where they're getting you. You know what I mean? So that is the key. So someone asked, it is haveibeenpawned.com is the name of the site. But yeah, the social media is a terrible terrible way to get hacked, because we tend to trust, right? My mom sends me a nice little cute card for Christmas. I want to open it and see my mom tell me happy, you know, Merry Christmas and all this kind of stuff. But realistically, you shouldn't trust anything. So that was the first thing we all did, was text my mother and go, hey, what's going on? And that's when we found out that it was, of course, secure, because she got it from, you know, her friend Betty, which, you know, Betty is a cyber expert apparently, and verified all the deets before we do it. But that is how it's either you have a weak password, or someone sent you something funny, or you clicked on an ad. Don't believe all the ads in Facebook are legit just because they're an ad. Again, you're going out to a website. They usually link you to a website, and the software can be downloaded from there. And I think the big lesson there is be alert. Think that people are trying to get into your stuff, because they are. So, and another question, can you find out if you are on the dark web, how you correct that or clean it? The clean it, there is no cleaning. The correct it is to change your username, password, if you're using an email combination, make sure you have a different password. There are ways to look on the internet, on the dark web, to find, there are programs. Helen and I are researching one now that goes out and it will tell you if you have, like, say, a bot network where your computer system's been used as a controller or is connected to others, i.e. it's been hacked and they're using it for their own nefarious purposes. It's a little harder to do on your own. That's a little more in depth, but the Have You Been Pawned will tell you if your email and username or password have been out there. The best virtual private networks, the cheap ones. I use ExpressVPN. It's a decent one. It's very secure. There's a couple out there. I would say don't overspend. You know, if they're wanting hundreds of dollars, they're not providing that much more security than anything else. I will, and I'll put this in the chat. I am using this product for a firewall, and it also provides VPN service for me. It's called Firewalla. I'm using the gold version. It's a couple $100, and it provides me a firewall for my home network, business network, so I can separate my business work and my home network from each other, so they're not all on the same network. And it comes with a free VPN tool, so that you can VPN wherever you are. You will VPN right back to your home, so it'll be like you're sitting at your desk at home. Naming conventions periodically for company-wide depends. Your system names, like my computer names and stuff, I wouldn't necessarily, because that makes it a little more difficult. I would say maybe once a year you could change your IP schema, because you can do that relatively easily depending on the size of the organization with your DHCP services. But I would change your Wi-Fi name possibly. Definitely you're changing your Wi-Fi passwords. I would change your passwords at a minimum every 3 months. Even if they're long and big, you just want to change them out in case someone does get hacked. Because remember, if you have a super long, crazy password, but someone steals it from Citibank because they broke into Citibank, they don't know your password, they didn't break your password, but they broke into Citibank and stole all their users' logins and passwords, they now have that crazy password. So it would behoove you to change it every now and again and keep checking out on Firewalla. Any other questions? I hope you all got something from it. We'll be doing this probably hopefully once a quarter. And, you know, kind of keep people up to date and informed, and feel free to reach out. You can reach out to us at www.digitalbeachhead.com. That's our website. Happy to just give you some hints, tips, tricks at any time. And if you need more in-depth services, just contact us. We want to join your team. Go team. And with that, I hope you all have a great afternoon, and we will be talking to you soon. And again, please feel free the next time you see this pop up to tell your friends and neighbors and cohorts and wherever you think that might need a little cybersecurity help. And one final going away note, password 123. Don't even do SolarWinds 123. It's been done. So with that, y'all have a great day, and I'll talk to you all soon. Bye for now. Bye.